Good evening. Welcome to When Your Parents Insist on Staying, a weekly Facebook series powered by Gracefully at Home Caregiving, where we bring you education, expert insights, and practical tips to help you make those informed decisions about all things related to aging, caregiving, and home care. Again, my name is Tammy Sirmons. I am your host for this evening. I'm a registered nurse, elder care consultant, and certified dementia practitioner. Every day, I serve as Chief Caregiving Officer at Gracefully at Home Caregiving and the Area Director of the Southeast Florida Area Care Planning Council. So I'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us this evening. If you were here with us last week, we talked about 5 signs that it's time to consider care for your aging loved ones, whether it's a parent, whether it's a spouse, or any other relative or loved one that you may have. And just very briefly, we covered these 5 areas of when it's maybe time to have that conversation. So we talked about social isolation. If your loved one is showing signs of social isolation, that's an issue where you want to get and talk to them and see if it may be time for them to get some companionship or some help around. We talked about cognitive changes. What can be subtle changes that you may notice when you visit your loved one. Then we talked about safety concerns. Are there falls happening? Are there instances where they're driving somewhere and they don't remember, how to get back home? Are they wandering? Are they leaving the house and found wandering in the neighborhood? So those are some areas that you might want to start to think it's time to start having that conversation, definitely. And then we talked about decline in health or mobility, right? Where they used to not have as many medical concerns. Are there more medical concerns now? And are they going unattended to? And then one of the last things we talked about was family noticeability. You would notice that when you would go visit mom or dad, they were usually clean, neat, and dry. And now, when you go visit them, there's been a change in their appearance. So those are the 5 things that we talked about last week about when it may be time to have that conversation with your loved one. I had some guests on last week who were able to show some wonderful insights about when it may be time, and also give us some ideas of things we may not think about, some things that we may think are the natural part of aging that really aren't the natural part of aging, and maybe a signal that it's time to have that conversation. So tonight, I just wanted to talk to you about, we talked about that first part about, right, recognizing those 5 signs of when it may be time to get some care. Tonight, we're going to talk about getting to, this is part 2, right? So we're going to talk about tips for approaching that conversation, right? Some of the time, some of the questions that I get, or some of the phone calls I get, is that, I know mom needs help. She's resistant to it. I'm afraid to bring it up. I don't know how she's gonna react. I don't even know what to say to get the conversation started. So we're gonna take a few minutes tonight to just talk about some ways that may be helpful with you getting that conversation started. If you're watching us on Facebook Live right now and you have some questions or you have some comments, put it in the comment section. We go back, we review the comments to see if you have any questions. We can get those questions answered. And also to learn more about what you might want to hear about on this series. We're here every week, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're here to give you those answers to those questions, or at least give you something to think about, or at least let you know that there is a community of resources available to you for those questions that you may have, because we all know that it's not if it comes to a point where you're caring for an aging loved one, but it's when. So we just want to be here, make sure you know that we're here and we're available to you. All right, so let's jump right in so I don't keep you long. I know we were kind of late getting started. So one of the first things you want to do when you're approaching the conversation is the first thing is you want to choose the right time and place, right? At Sunday dinner, it's not a good time when everybody's there and mom or dad are having a good time. That's really probably not the best time to bring up the conversation. So you want to make sure that you have a calm, private setting for the conversation. And then you want to ease your loved one into the conversation. Maybe start out by asking them some questions about how do they think it's going living alone, or are there some things they would like to have in addition to any other services, or something they think will help them get along their days a little bit easier. We know that being calm and not saying you need help. We need to have this conversation, but be just be I don't know, just approachable in the way that you approach them, right? So be creative, is that's the word I'm looking for. Be creative in the word in your approach, right? So they don't think you're just coming at them and jumping at them and telling them that they need the care, but you want to know what their feelings are too. You want to kind of get an idea of what their perspective is of how things are going with them. And then the next thing we want to do is use empathy and understanding, right? So you want to let them know that you're not here to take charge of their life or to tell them what to do or what they have to do, what they should do, or what they need to do, but that you're coming from a place of love, care, and concern, right? So one way to approach that might be, "Hey, mom, I noticed that this is my third time being here this week. And I noticed you've had on the same outfit. I know you love this top. I know it's a great color on you. But is there some help that we can get you with maybe washing the clothes so that you have this availability of all the lovely clothes that you like to wear? So we want to ease into it. Like I know it's kind of difficult getting things out of the dryer or getting things ready for you. Would you like some help in picking out your outfits, right? I love that purple. It always looks good on you. So would you like some help in picking out some outfits? And maybe we can get some outfits set out ahead of time for you. And then you want to be understanding. You want to know, Mom, I know you've always been independent. I've always appreciated that about you. In fact, that's where I get my independence from. So I thank you for being that independent person. But even the strongest of us, we need help sometimes. So I'm here for you if you ever want to have any help or you have, some additional support that you may need. We just want to make sure that we're coming from that place of empathy and understanding and that we're here to help. We're just here to give them additional resources or help that they may need, but we don't want to try to take away their independence. One of the main concerns about our aging population, and when it comes to maybe getting some in-home care or whatever assistance that they may need, is that they're going to lose their independence. So it's very important for them and to them to maintain that independence. So one way for us to do it is to walk alongside them in their independence journey, right? We don't want to take anything away from them, but we want to just join them on their journey and be that assistance if they need it, right? So that's a more calming, empathetic, understanding approach that we can take to it, and that may let them let down their guard a little bit if they're guarded about talking about help or talking about these conversations aren't easy, right? Sometimes it can be very difficult, and a lot of times we're talking with people who have been smart independent business owners, executives, their whole entire lives. So it's difficult for them to even accept the fact that they may need help. So we need to be understanding of that and make sure we come from a place of caring, love, empathy, and understanding. So another thing we want to talk about is addressing any concerns or questions that they may have. Suggest preparing some common concerns. Like what are the concerns? Here are some concerns that we're having. Where is a family or me as your daughter? Here are some concerns that we're having. We talked about coming to visit mom for the third time this week, and she's got on the same clothes, right? What obvious to you have not been laundered. So here's a concern that I have, mom. I know you always like to look good. You like your hair to look good, and you like what you're wearing to always look nice. So here's a concern that I have. That stain on your shirt. If we don't get it washed, get it laundered, get you changed out of it, it may not come out. Right. So we want to make sure that we're coming from a place of love when we're addressing our concerns, and we're not being accusing them of anything, right? We're not accusing them of not taking care of themselves or being lazy or not remembering. We don't want to come out in that kind of way, but we want them to know that we have some concerns. I love you. I see you every day. And here are some of the concerns that I have. And then you want to address their concerns that they may have, right? When we're talking about getting help or going, whether that's in-home help or whether that's going outside for help, we want to talk about the concerns that our loved ones may be having, right? We talked about losing independence is a big one. That's a really big one, to lose their independence. Who wants to lose their independence? None of us, right? So we want to talk about concerns, stigma around needing care, right? Maybe sometimes they might not want their neighbors or their friends to know that they have in-home assistance. So you want to make sure that we're addressing all of the concerns that they may have that they may not be communicating to us. There's usually some kind of reason behind them just being stubborn for not wanting to accept care, but usually there's some kind of fear that's behind it, right? If that means sometimes they may think if I bring someone in to help me, does that mean that they're going to take over everything? Well, I can still cook, I can still wash my clothes or whatever. And I don't want to bring somebody in who's going to take that away from me. A lot of the things that our aging loved ones are still able to do, that gives them still that bit of control. Because believe it or not, as much as we may notice some changes in them, whether it be with memory, whether it be mobility, or any of that, they've noticed it first, right? And they've probably worked really, really hard to keep it under wraps, right? Because for the simple reason, they don't want to lose their independence. They don't want to be seen as weak. So we have to be mindful of some of the concerns and the fears that they may have when we're approaching this conversation. So we want to take that to an account when we start talking about the concerns we have. We also want to make sure that we're ready to listen to the concerns that they have and ready to alleviate those concerns as well, to give them a peace of mind. And then we want to talk about involving professional help. This is probably one of the best things that we can do, right? Um, so when is it an appropriate time to include maybe perhaps a geriatric care manager, right? We know that sometimes some of our loved ones who we're closest to, sometimes they don't take advice from us very, very readily, right? You're the daughter, I'm the mom. I should be giving you advice, not you giving me advice, right? So sometimes things hit a little bit different in the conversation when it's coming from someone that's not as close. They're more, sometimes they're able to accept it more when it's coming from a third party. So consider getting a geriatric care manager involved, an elder law attorney for support. They probably would listen to an attorney about, this long-term care planning process and listen to them better than they would us, who they may be thinking that we're trying to instill their independence. This is somebody who's unbiased, who doesn't know them, that they may be more apt to listen to about some of the same things that we might say to them, but it's coming from a different source. So it may be easier for them to take in and to really consider. Um, this is by no ways easy when it comes to having these conversations, but I think the more that we prepare ourselves for it, and the more that we arm ourselves with tools and resources, the better off the conversation can be. It doesn't mean that they're going to just take our advice or take our recommendations right off the bat. But it does show them our concerns, and it shows them that we're concerned about their concerns, right? So it's all about just making sure that you are ready to have the conversation, that you're armed with the resources that you need in order to answer some of the questions and concerns your aging loved one may have, so that you all can make an informed decision together. One of the best things that we can do is to keep them involved in the conversation and the decisions that are being made, because they feel empowered when they still have some say so in it. So we don't want to take anything away from what they may have to add to the conversation. We want to make sure we incorporate it so that all parties and all concerns are being noticed and taken care of and taken into consideration. So those were some steps that we can take when it's time to have that conversation, and what we can do when it's time to approach the conversation. Sometimes we know it can be very difficult because as much as they don't want to see themselves aging and possibly needing help, it's hard for us as family caregivers, as daughters, as sons, to see them getting to the point where they may need some help. So the the earlier that we can start the conversation, we can start easing little conversations in, the better it usually turns out to be, because you're kind of warming them up during the whole process. You're warming them up to what it could look like, to have some help or to get some inside help or outside help, whatever the case may be. But it's not just a all of a sudden thing. So we know that most of us become family caregivers usually by accident, right? It's usually that phone call or something that happens that throws us into the family caregiving aspect of life. And really, it kind of takes everybody off guard, right? Because it takes the care recipient off guard, because they who were probably normally able to sustain life on their own and without any assistance have now had something happen, whether it's an illness or an injury that has happened that's causing them to maybe need some help and not be able to be as sufficient alone as they were before. And then for the caregiving family member, is one day mom is fine, is doing everything for herself, and the next day I'm a family caregiver. So, we can plan all day. The earlier we start planning, the better. But it still, comes as a surprise when it finally happens. So it's always best to gird up your loins and be ready, be prepared, start having those conversations early, bring in the people that you need to bring in, whether it's an elder care attorney or geriatric care manager, a social worker, whoever you need to bring in to kind of give you that that extra support that you need to have that conversation. And then you want to continue to have the conversation. It's not a one and done time that you have the conversation, but you want to continue to have the conversation, right? Because you want them to know that you're really invested in their health and their wellness and their safety. So you want to make sure that you're continuing the conversations, and then be available for those conversations and be able to know where to go to get those resources to answer those questions and concerns that your aging loved one may have. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. This is episode number 3, all right, of When Your Parents Insist on Staying. We hope that you're finding this series to be helpful, to be informational, and to have you think about some things you might not have otherwise thought about, and to know that there are resources here for you. Like I mentioned before, we're here every Thursday. We won't be here on Christmas Thursday, but we're here every other Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're here to answer your questions, your concerns. So if you have any, please put that in the comments, and we can address them next time. And then also, leave us a comment and let us know what are some areas that you would like to have discussed when it comes to caring for our aging loved one. We'd love to talk about some things that you may be struggling with, or you may be thinking about, or you may want some additional information on. We'll be more than happy to cover those topics as well. So again, I'm Tammy Sirmons. I'm with Gracefully at Home Caregiving. We are a chronic illness management and support service that is out of Southeast Florida area. And we know that family caregiving can be difficult, and we know that it comes with a lot. So that's why we created this series, so that we can be here for you and with you on this journey, to make things as easy as possible for you. And we thank you for taking time to join us tonight. Come back next week. We'll continue the topic, and let us know if you have any questions. If you want to email us, you can email us at gracefully@home247@gmail.com. So if you want to email us some questions ahead of next week's topic, we can definitely incorporate that into that session. Or you can call us. Our phones are answered 24 hours a day by a real live person. If for some reason you don't get one of us, that means we're just helping another client. But we'll be more than happy to get back with you, to help you in any way that we can. And so that 24-hour phone number is 561-218-4703. We're always on standby to help and to give you the support that you need when you're caring for your aging loved one. So until next time, be safe. Tell your loved ones that you love them every opportunity you get, and know that you are not alone in this, that we're here to help you to navigate this area of life and for your loved ones. And we want to be on that journey with you. So again, thank you for your time. We'll see you next week. Um, Same place, same time, same channel. So please like and share so that others can get the benefit of the information that you just received. And we'll see you next week. Take care and have a good night.